for intellectual congeniality. He'd rather you brought your prejudice and pap to the table and put your feet under it. He was invested in first principles, original causes, not received ideas that pass for thought. His job was no less than what the large man Samuel Johnson had defined for the critic, to improve opinion into knowledge. As a columnist, literary artist, and cultural critic, Crouch butchered what he called all-purpose alienation, delighting in inflaming the passions of his readers in equal measure. You didn't need to agree with the man, but the virtuosity of his prose, the authority of his vision, the velocity of his intellect, and his very human story made his best work connect with a purpose as stark and true as blues lyrics. Always authentic, not one to bother with assembling consensus, Crouch trusted his thoughts and was unafraid of his own mind. He wanted to persuade you. He wanted to connect, always connect, and to shock others into fresh thought who had enjoyed too much their own ignorance. In Stanley's view, there was a hierarchy. Heroic engagement should be defined separately from narcissistic anarchy. By the time I first met him, late in his career, Crouch was already Rabelaisian in stature, intellect, and appetite, with a dash of Cervantes when he was tilting in the saddle of Rocinante. Purposeful to the last, he required intestinal fortitude, even in his most ardent admirers and friends. His public attacks were not ad hominem. They went far beyond anything personal. But if he sometimes held the primacy of his ideas over his personal relationships, he also had no problem changing his mind when he saw a better way forward. He retained the ethos of a jazz drummer who could absorb the rhythm of a soloist's improvisations and add foundation. From my vantage and his editor at Hearst, then friend, he was unsentimental about his own positions, which made him unpredictable, formidable, a free and unrepentant intellectual. Stanley had all the usual human vanities, but was unpretentious about who had the better mousetrap. Socratic to the core, he did not expect you to agree. He didn't seek acolytes. Those he influenced most could also be those who consistently challenged him. Stanley's change of heart on things, on certain jazz forms most dramatically, has sometimes confused and baffled his critics. When Stanley exited the ring of our contingent world, the gloves were still on the hands of his stupefied opponents. He would have preferred it that way, in the same way he liked restaurants with surly waiters who nonetheless served him fine meals. Crouch's commitment to his occupation as a writer was total. He discovered early what he possessed and bet his life on it. He publicly argued with and was at times physically belligerent with those he felt were destructive to the idiom to which he had dedicated his life. There it is, he might say with a shrug. Those who didn't understand Stanley's fight didn't appreciate where he'd come from or what that experience taught him. They had to understand that he couldn't be separated from his circumstances. He hadn't come from a place in life where ideas could remain abstractions. There has been universal acknowledgment that we have lost one of the great jazzmen, a near mythical figure, an arranger and conductor of himself, one who puts his life and career in the line for the music through his writing and advocacy of the art, an art form that has never had as many celebrants and champions as it needs. A reaper has swept over the world these past couple of years and culled many for all time, but we never actually lose a writer unless the silverfish of disregard do away with the work. So much about the public Stanley Crouch concerned his contrarian opinions and cutting sessions, the absurd accusation of him as some brand of henchman for establishment causes, but not enough has been said about his actual tracks. The intellectual biography, and the personal triumphs, all of which this collection presents to the reader. These uncollected writings, none of which appear in his 5 previous collections, contain enough breadth to contribute to an understanding of Crouch's most radically pragmatic positions and to a fuller picture of the man as a humanist, an American, and a defender of that idiom of Black American accomplishment most often referred to as the jazz and blues tradition.